Ceann Comhairle, and I'd like to commend Sinn Féin on their motion tonight. I think it's a very, very good motion. Probably debating something that we probably shouldn't be debating, because there shouldn't be a debate about special education for children, and yet we continue to have this debate, not only in this chamber but outside the chamber, and it may kind of seem in some ways abstract when we debate in relation to this issue, but it's not so abstract when it comes to parents not having that provision, and their children not having that provision come September. And it's completely unacceptable that we have this situation that continues to 2022, and obviously history will judge successive governments that have essentially let down children when the basic right of education. And 241 of their children won't have an appropriate place come September, and at least 112 children between the ages of 1 and 6 are currently waiting for appropriate school place. So the stress that brings on is incalculable. That them children won't have a place is unacceptable. And many, as the other deputies have said, parents come to their constituency office speaking about, they have no school place come September. I mean, my head drops when that happens, because, I've said this a few times in relation to other issues, but the last people that parents that are seeking a provision for a special education is TDs, I'll be honest with you. That means the system has failed. And, that's just not good enough in 2022. Minister, I want to and I know I've raised this with Minister Madigan, is in relation to ASD places, particularly in secondary school. So at the moment, the ratio between primary and secondary is 3:1. So there's a serious shortage of ASD places in secondary school. And at this moment in time, in the Leinster, Dublin area, it's running at 3:1. So there's 3 places in primary compared to 1 place in secondary. And that will lead on to a major shortage. It's already happening, of appropriate places in secondary schools. And look, at secondary schools some are stepping up to the plate, and some have reservations about resources, about places and so forth. And that's important that them resources are put in place. And I think that's really important, Minister. I can only speak for the area that I represent, and I know there is a major shortage come every September in relation to secondary schools, and that has to be addressed. Just in relation to the special education centres, I mean, they're a complete non-runner, and I think the Minister should, state that, they're going to be completely ruled out, because the parents I've been speaking to, not all, have said that this is not a good idea, and it almost institutionalises special education in relation to their children. The 37A legal process is, obviously that compels schools to make provision for special education, but again, that's a very arduous bureaucratic system where at the end of the day, schools really probably are not going to compelled in relation to providing special education places. And they shouldn't, you shouldn't have this situation where schools are compelled in relation to this situation. If schools are given the resources and the adequate, provision, every school, I think, in this country would provide, classroom provision, special education. There's no doubt about that. But there is a a barrier between what schools can get in relation to resources and, what the Department of Education can provide. Minister, I don't want to be over politically about this, and sometimes, sometimes you kind of leave your politics behind in relation to this. But this needs to be sorted out, not today, but it should have been sorted out yesterday. Like children, and I know, you, on a personal basis, you're embarrassed by this. It's embarrassing that hundreds of children do not have an appropriate place come September. And that's just not acceptable. So leave all the politics behind, and we'll support you wherever, you know, as opposition TDs, to finally resolve this issue. You know, this has been decades in the making, but you know, this is successive governments simply have not worked this out. And you know, this country is a wealthy, very wealthy country. You know, there's lots of resources, but for children to be denied an education when they're 5 to 6, 7 or 8 years old, it's just unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And hopefully, Minister, you know, in the 2.5 years left of this government, if it lasts that it can at least address some of the issues that are letting down children.